the injury. It's not about the injury. It's about the recovery. It's about the recovery.
Hi folks, Paul Padda with you on the Paul Padda Podcast. Thank you for joining us for another episode coming to you live from Red Chimp Studios. Today I have a really special guest, someone that I have a tremendous amount of respect for, that I've known for a number of years now. And as I was commenting before the show started, Joe, you seem like you're the kind of person who just never ages. I saw you 5 years ago and you look like the same person. Amazing. What is the secret there?
It's all about the smile.
It's all about the smile.
So somebody told me a long time ago, if you just keep on smiling, nobody will ever know what you're up to.
I think that's a great piece of advice. Well, you look great, and thank you so much for coming on today's show.
Oh, it's an honor. Thanks.
Tell our viewers a little bit about yourself. How long have you lived in Vegas? What do you do for a living? What brought you to Vegas? Give us the rundown.
Sure. So I moved to Las Vegas 44 years ago next month.
Wow.
So
44
February.
years. You've seen a lot of change.
February of 1976.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a kid, as you can imagine. I was 23, and I didn't have a lot of education or experience or training. And I went to work for Metropolitan Life. Like a lot of current financial planners who are full service financial planners or brokers or advisors, a lot of us started out in the insurance business.
Yeah.
So our foundation was always protection first, which should really come first.
I should probably have gotten this out of the way right away.
Yeah.
You are a financial advisor, right?
Financial advisor with all the licenses.
But I think people think of financial advisors as a guy who works at Merrill Lynch or one of the brokerage houses. You do a lot more than that, and we'll get into that.
Yes, yes. So the folks at the wirehouses are serving their clients in terms of assets under management. Mm-hmm. They typically set up some kind of a brokerage account that's stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, things like that. They could be individual stocks or mutual funds or a combination thereof. They could be annuities, depending on the philosophy of the advisor. Mm-hmm. They may have a small component that's insurance. They may branch out into certain kinds of insurances. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know how much planning and advisement that those advisors do, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong or positive or negative. I just don't know.
Yeah.
So I get involved with the client at the ground level. So I will bring an attorney into the picture if the client doesn't have one for a particular need.
And what's the name of your business?
Our firm is Alpha Omega Wealth.
Alpha Omega Wealth.
Right.
Very nice. And
right.
Where would people find you on the web?
So we're at alphaomegawealth.com.
Okay.
And
phone number?
We're at 702-430-4400.
4400. Okay. Mm-hmm. And where are you located?
Just up the street on Durango and Hacienda.
So that's right near IKEA, right off the highway.
So
easy to find.
Yeah, just between Tropicana and Russell.
Okay, yeah.
So we're right across the road from the Sultan of Brunei's mansion.
Is that right?
So you can throw a rock across the street if you can throw that far.
Yeah.
And hit that mansion at the end of
fascinating.
Of the country club.
So 44 years you've been in Las Vegas.
Right.
And you started out as 23, certainly is a kid. You come here, you get involved in the industry, you become self-educated on finance, and through your work experience you learn a lot. And how do you end up starting Alpha Omega Wealth?
So I literally worked with the big companies, the MetLife, the Mass Mutual, for the first 25 years, and in the last 44 years, 35 of those years, I've been an independent advisor. Mm-hmm. So we're not bound or a captive to any particular company.
Okay.
And so you learn, you go to classes, you take professional classes. I got my degrees in a chartered life underwriter, chartered financial consultant.
Yeah.
And our series, our 7, 22, so forth, the stockbroker's license, if you will, that you get as courses are offered, you just go and take those. You fly around the different places, and my CLU, CHFC are from the American College in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, that I've had for 20, 25 years. And then all the licenses to deal with all the different types of investments and insurance products.
You have an amazing background. So let me ask you right off the bat, because I think a lot of people watching the show just are going to be thinking, we see a lot of things in the news now with potential global conflicts and then just the ups and downs. Where do you see the economy? How healthy do you think the economy is right now?
So that's a great question, and I've been watching it, as we know, for 40 years. And at any given period of time, you could almost pick any given year and say there was a conflict, there was a depression, there was a world emergency, there was a recession, a global recession, there was hunger, there were wars, there were downturns in the economy, there were market pressures and so forth. And so what I want to do as an optimal guide is I want my clients to have a plan that will succeed regardless of anything that happens in their life.
Yeah.
Whether it's internal or external. And as I think you remember, I started out my career serving lawyers in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is 100% of the reason why I have gray hair today. and lawyers have helped me to learn to take a broad view and to look at all the different aspects of a client situation.
Right.
So if you may be planning to stay married for 100 years, I hope you are, but that may not happen.
That's true.
And so there should be an orderly dissolution and an orderly separation of assets without having to pay other lawyers to go through that chasm for you. There should be some money that's in fixed or conservative pockets. There should be some money, if you want, that should be in the stock market. Now, my clients fall into some very clearly delineated categories. Some clients love real estate, and they hate the stock market.
Right.
Some clients hate the stock market and they hate real estate, but they love owning businesses.
But the point is that with you helping them as a financial planner, you can really make money in any of these quadrants, and we'll talk about what those mean. But just taking a step back, because I've heard this phrase used before, that investing is not a spectator sport. And what that means, as it's been explained to me, is that some people, especially like we might have a lot of viewers who are millennials, who might be sitting there watching the show and thinking, I'm pretty young. I have a lot of time in life. I can get in later. Plus, I'm hearing about a bull versus a bear market.
Right.
I mean, you can always make money in any market. Is that true? Bull or bear market?
That's totally true.
Yeah. What is the difference between a bull and a bear market?
Well, a bull market is when the market's rising.
Yeah.
Right? And everybody wants to get on the bandwagon when the market's rising, which is exactly the wrong time to get on, right? Because you don't want to start buying when prices are going up.
That's true.
You actually want to buy when everybody's afraid.
Yeah.
When everybody's in fear, and the market's in a bear position, right? When prices are low and things don't look attractive, that's when you want to buy them.
Right.
So if I take a step even back before that, I love listening and reading to Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
And Warren Buffett says, I have no market perspective whatsoever. Yeah. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what the market's going to do next year.
Right.
So what I want to do is I want to send my team into any given company. Let's say it's Coca-Cola. My team is going to sit inside Coca-Cola's headquarters for maybe 6 months. And we're going to look at their inventory and their business plan and their strategy and the new products and their marketing and their personnel and their equipment and their facilities. And then if we decide that we like the company, we're going to buy probably close to not a controlling, but a significant share of that company, and we're going to hold it forever.
Yeah. Long-term view, like you were talking about.
Forever.
Yeah.
So think about Warren Buffett's main company, Berkshire Hathaway. And the stock price is over $200,000 per share.
That's amazing.
And now they have B shares where you could buy in for a smaller piece.
Right.
So, and Warren Buffett has his annual shareholders meeting in Omaha at the College World Series baseball field, right, where they could hold 40,000 people. And these people flock to listen to the oracle, right?
Yeah.
And they get no dividends on that stock.
Right.
So they're holding that stock for one thing, appreciation.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, you might be saying, well, I have 10 shares of Berkshire Hathaway worth $2 million. I'm not going to collect any dividends during my lifetime, but I'm going to create a tremendous legacy
Yeah.
for my children and grandchildren. And then you would have to ask me, what will you live on? Something else. I want to have other streams of income because Berkshire is not giving me a stream of income.
And what is a dividend exactly? for
Well,
those
a
of us-
dividend is a share of profits. So if you own Coca-Cola stock,
Right.
you're going to get a quarterly dividend. And typically, dividends are declared and paid quarterly
Okay.
to the owner of record
I
on
see.
a certain date prior to that
Yeah.
declare date. And so you'll receive dividends 4 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say Coca-Cola is paying a 3% dividend. So it's separate from the value of the stock. Value of the stock may go up or down, but they're going to send you
Money.
they're going to send you a notice, and you can take that dividend and cash it, and you can receive it in cash, or you could
reinvest it.
say, let me buy more Coca-Cola with it.
Yeah.
Let me let it ride. I want to keep on, and I can change that option anytime I want.
Yeah.
I could sell shares. I could receive my dividends in cash. I could have my dividends buy more. I could change my option anytime I want. So if you're going to create a plan that works for you, you're going to have to decide, where do I want my money to reside? What is comfortable for me? So I have a friend and a client who owns restaurants here in Las Vegas, some of them inside hotels, some of them outside hotels.
Okay.
That is his comfort level. That is his wealth. His companies and the management companies that own them are worth probably 30, 40 million dollars.
Okay.
He's been doing this for 25, 30 years,
Wow.
right? And then there are the flash in the pans that you hear that people pull a slot machine
Yeah.
and they win a couple of $1 million or more, and probably the 80-20 rule is alive and well, where most of those people wind up blowing all the money
Right. It's incredible.
unless
Heartbreaking.
they get some kind of a board
Yeah.
around them, some people with maybe level heads and some conservative point of view, and say, listen, you can have a great life. You can spend money. Let's put you on a monthly budget. Well, why would I have a budget?
Yeah.
Well, because if you don't have a budget, you're going to spend all the money. I don't care how much money you have.
You have to have some discipline. Yeah.
Right.
Right. And live within your means.
And I can tell you the horror stories. A friend of mine gave his son, while he was alive, this is 20 years ago, 25 years ago, he gave his son $30 million. His son lost it all within 10 years and came back and asked for more.
Oh my goodness.
He didn't get more
Yeah.
because that was his legacy. That was his inheritance.
Yeah.
And you and I would say, I think it would take me 3 lifetimes to spend
Absolutely.
$30 million.
Yeah.
Well, he got it done in 10. He got rid of it, lost it, spent it, gambled it,
That's
and
crazy.
made bad decisions and
Yeah.
so forth. So no matter how much you have, you need to be prudent with at least some of it.
And you know, it's interesting hearing you talk. Is so much of investing is rooted in a lot of psychology
Oh, yeah.
and emotion, right?
Yep.
I mean, people have an emotional connection to money. Some people try to hold on to it. Some people just spend it freely. But I think that, you know, people who are not disciplined, maybe in other aspects of their life, they may have that relationship with money where it's gone. Because I've read these lottery winners, people who've won $100 million in a lottery, and then within like 10 years, it's totally gone.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson, I think I read at one point, had nearly almost $1 billion.
Yes.
And then he's broke.
Yes.
So it's amazing how you can spend a lot of money, and it can go very quickly. Then there's all types of people who inherit money or get money, and then they have a lot of hanger-ons. And you see this a lot in the NBA with these young athletes who
Sure.
who might come from poverty, and then there's a lot of people they have to take care of. But it is an interesting question to me, just this always exploring this relationship between people's emotions and their psychology with money.
Oh, you're walking it right into my lair here. So I spend a lot of time talking with clients about the difference between money and wealth.
Yeah, that's what I was really trying to get at.
So people actually think that money is wealth. Money is not wealth. Your wealth resides in your mind. It resides in your heart. It resides in your culture.
Yeah.
It resides in your family values.
That's
I get goosebumps when I talk about this, and I've been talking about it for 20 years.
Well, it's like that saying, you can have money, but you don't have class. There are people who don't have any money, they have a lot of class. That is real wealth. I agree with you. I think wealth is, we attach it to the concept of money, but I think an attitude can bring money eventually, but it's really, you're saying so much of it, it's wealth is something that's very, I like that distinction that you're making between wealth and money.
And there are a lot of different components to this. So your family could have family wealth,
Yeah.
meaning educational wealth, spiritual wealth, cultural wealth, generational wealth. We have one of our companies is called Generational Wealth. And we want to support people and help them to allocate resources so that they could support the good works that their children are going to spend their lives doing. So just think of the Kennedys.
Yeah.
Whether you like their politics or not, I don't care, it's irrelevant. The way they have been able to capitalize their generations financially is, son, the family's going to pay for your college as far as you go. PhD, multiple PhDs. The family is going to lend you money to buy your home. We're going to arrange a 4% mortgage. This might be true, might not be true, but a reasonable mortgage that's guaranteed. You will pay it back because we never want the family bank to run out of money. And you'll never have to worry about putting food on the table. You'll never have to worry about putting gas in your car. But what we want you to do is we want you to do good for the world, for your family, for the community, for the world. And so a friend of mine shared with me this wonderful definition of capital. He said capital is the ability to do good. And the more capital you have, the more good you can do. See, and I believe that. I don't believe that money is here to be hoarded, because we could pile it up in the corner and it does no one any good. But if you know how riches and how wealth and how money generation and wealth generation work, you could always get more.
It can be transformative.
Right.
All right, we're going to take a break and get back and talk a little bit about your investment philosophy and how you help guide people to make good decisions. This is a segment of the show we call Paul Padda for the People, where we throw out some tips and give folks some valuable information out there. We'll take a break and we'll be right back. Thank you. Hi folks, Paul Padda from Paul Padda Law, wishing you a happy holiday season. Today I want to talk to you about hedonic damages. Many people ask me, what is that? Well, hedonic damages is a term of art in the field of economics used to describe compensation a person can receive in a personal injury case for the loss of enjoyment of life. What does that mean in more detail? Well, let's say, for example, you're in a car accident and you're injured and you injure your knee as a result of that accident. And let's say before that accident, one of the biggest things that gave you pleasure and enjoyment in life was going out to Mount Charleston and hiking. And now as a result of that accident, you're not able to do that anymore. Or let's say you're a grandparent and you used to love picking up your child or playing baseball with your grandson. You can't do that anymore. Well, you can get compensated in a personal injury case for the loss of enjoyment of life as a result of injury sustained based upon the negligence of another. When our clients come to us, we don't just look at the obvious damages like pain and suffering, lost wages, medical bills. We look at the total picture to try to get our clients complete and total compensation, and we have recovered amazing damages on behalf of people for loss of enjoyment of life. Paul Padda, wishing you a happy holiday from Paul Padda Law. Be safe out there. All right, folks, welcome back. We're with Joe Pantozzi of Alpha Omega Wealth, and he's been giving us some really good insights into money versus investments and legacies and how to manage your money and all of those great things. And this is something that obviously affects everybody, right? Everybody out there, money matters. Money makes the world go around, as they say. And whether we like it or not, we are in a system where we have to earn money to support ourselves. But then we also have to take some of the money that we make and invest it. Now, if someone is watching the show, I was a young guy once, and I used to think I was going to live forever, and I could put off, investing in an IRA or whatever. I wish I had done it when I was like 18 years old, because I don't know how much money I'd have by now. Instead of having maybe blown it at happy hours and doing other things, I'm always impressed when I meet young people who are way ahead of the curve, because I was like, wow, I wasn't doing that when I was 20. So if someone like that's watching the show, or let's say you have someone who's a little bit older, maybe in their 50s, 60s, who says, you know, I've worked hard, I've come into some money, and they're not really sure where to start, because people go to their job, they're good at that, but investing and knowing where to invest your money, that's a whole nother area. And sometimes, so that's the advantage that you offer, is you help them, you become their quarterback or partner with them to help guide them. If someone calls you up and says, Mr. Pentozzi, where do I start? What advice would you offer?
Well, first thing that they would say is, Joe, where would I start?
Okay, Joe.
So money is a huge subject.
Yeah.
And it's difficult because we are the richest country in the world, and even our poorest people, our poorest workers are richer than most of the people on the planet. Yeah. And we have this antagonistic relationship with money because we literally are a rich country. And part of the psychology, as you were talking about, is that people are so complacent about holding on to some because they assume and they presume that they're going to make more next year.
Yeah.
So if I'm 25 years old and I'm making $35,000 at an entry-level position, I'm not going to worry about saving right now because next year or 5 years from now, I'll be making $50,000 and I'll have plenty of money to put away.
That's actually kind of, I think, very unique to America. Because
Right.
if you're 50 or 60 years old in another country and you haven't made it, like you haven't had your life's over. Most of the rest of the world has a very pessimistic view. I think Americans are by nature, we're such optimistic people. We're inculcated from the time that we're born that, you know what, you can reinvent yourself at any age. You can start a business. That's why I think whether it's true or not, but people in America most people I think believe that, you know what, I can do it. I can make it. I can become the next internet guy, or I can start a company and become a multimillionaire.
So
I think that dream still lives.
Sorry to interrupt. So I would say to that person, because you know you're going to make more money next year, it's not going to kill you to put some money aside, because the most important thing you could do is start the habit.
Yeah.
Start the discipline.
That's
and
true.
Americans hate that word. We hate discipline.
Yeah.
And part of the attitude of comfort and confidence also comes with it some arrogance and presumptuousness.
Yeah, there's some truth.
Where we say, I don't have to worry about anything.
It's kind of like eating, right?
because-
People eat and drink whatever they want
Well,
until they wake up one day and are like, oh man, I can't do this anymore.
I think about Jay Leno and the Cheetos commercial. Crunch all you want, we'll make more.
Yeah.
Don't worry about saving next year.
Right.
If I made 100 this year, I'll make 110 next year, and I'll double up on my savings. Well, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And then people wind up going 20 years, and I'll say, well, let's think about how much money you've made in the last 20 years. Let's count it up. And I might do this exercise in a group and not call on anybody. And an individual might come out and say, oh my goodness, I've already made $2 million. I've already made $1 million. How much of it did you save? Well, how much do you have?
Yeah.
I've got $15,000 in the bank. Really? You made $1.5 million and you saved $15,000? What will happen if you follow that same formula for the next 10 years? Oh, that'll be terrible.
Yeah.
And that's what we see in America. Most Americans who have, let's say, an IRA or a 401k at work.
What do you mean by IRA?
So an IRA is an individual retirement account.
Okay.
And the government allowed people to put money away before taxes. And we thought that was a great benefit. And that law actually came into being right before I got in the insurance business in 1974. And the government said, we'll allow you to put money away and you won't have to pay any taxes on it until you come out the other end at retirement. And we thought it was wonderful.
Yeah.
But what really happens is, does the government ever really do anything for us where they know they're going to lose money?
Right.
What really happens is we're setting up a savings account for the government so that they could track our money.
Yeah.
And they have access to it. They have reports that are sent to them, they're copied by the investment companies. And if you had taken that money and invested in the same properties, real estate, or mutual funds, stock market, without it being in an IRA, you would have paid the tax first. So here's my question. Would you rather pay tax on a small amount or a large amount?
That's a good question.
And do you think taxes are going up or going down?
Yeah, no, the law of life is taxes always go up.
Right. So when you were 25 years old and you were
In one way or another. Even though the income tax may come down, they're going to get you in other ways.
someplace else.
Yeah.
So when you were 25 and you're working for an employer and the employer offered you a 401k and said, you can put $50 a paycheck and you'll be able to put it in tax-free or pre-tax. What tax bracket is that 25-year-old person in? 18%?
Right.
They're saving 18%. When they get out to age 65 or 70 and they've got $500,000, which most don't, by the way, we have the numbers. If people are over 60 and they're in a 401k, their balance is roughly $200,000. They've worked their entire career, and the average 401k balance is only $200,000.
Yeah,
if they're under 60, it's under $100,000.
Wow.
So we're not talking about a lot of money, but the money that we are talking about has been squirreled away only to be taxed at your highest bracket. Now, without getting too much into tax rules, if you invest in real estate or mutual funds without an IRA, without a 401k, you can receive the benefits of that growth and only pay tax according to the capital gains schedule, which is much lower. It's almost half of the ordinary income tax schedule. So if I buy real estate, hold it for 20 years, I pay capital gains tax on the growth, on the appreciation when I sell it. But if I put that in an IRA, which I could.
And just so people who don't understand, when you say capital gains, you're talking about money that appreciates in value, the tax you would pay on that.
It could be a stock, a bond, a mutual fund, a piece of real estate, a rental house.
Yeah.
If you hold it for a year and a day, you're taxed at capital gains rates, which are much lower, 21% at the highest bracket.
Right.
At the highest. If you buy a property and sell it within 6 months, you're going to pay ordinary income tax, which could be roughly 37%, 37.5%. So you wouldn't want to sell a property or a portfolio within 12 months.
12 months, yeah.
Right? So this is the way I help my clients. If my client is a business owner and he or she has 20 employees, let's say, and the employees would like to have a 401k, I say, what we want to do is let's set up the 401k for those kids because they should be able to put money away on a regular basis, have it come out of their paycheck, and there's something called a Roth option where they literally don't get a tax deduction on the money going in, but they get no tax on the money coming out. And so what I suggest is we put a 401k in with a Roth option. And now any individual employee can choose whether they'd like the tax deduction on the small amount or the big amount.
Yeah.
And of course, I'll share my bias because every one of us has one if we're breathing. And I'll share my bias and what backs it up.
Yeah.
Now, for the business owner is not going to want to participate in the 401k at all because that business owner may want to put $50,000 away for him or herself. Or $100,000 away, depending on how well they're doing. And they will cause themselves greater fees, greater pain, greater accounting, greater brokerage fees inside the account, and they lose flexibility because they won't have access to that money until they're 59 and a half. So there are a lot of ins and outs to be discussed. But going back to day one, square one, a client walks in my office and says, can you help me? Sure. The first thing that we want to do is create a layer of protection. I want to make sure that if your paycheck gets cut off because you're sick or hurt, that you have some kind of a disability protection at work.
Yeah.
The employer will continue paying you because if you can't have a paycheck coming in, your investment or savings program goes away.
And that's where most people are.
So let's lay a foundation of protection.
Yeah.
The second layer is savings. We should have access to emergency funds, and I don't care what your wealth is. Even if you're a millionaire, you should have some money that you can access even if the market's bad. Because if the market's bad, you don't want to be selling stocks or mutual funds for your retirement money, you want money that's not affected, non-correlated to the stock market in a separate account that you can have access to. And we were talking about an emergency preparedness or an emergency plan or a financial emergency plan. If you're the older person and you have income coming in on a regular basis from a portfolio and you're taking $5,000 a month or whatever the number is, what happens if you get sick and you need to go to a nursing facility or an assisted living or a nursing home and it costs you roughly $10,000 a month? You may wind up draining your capital and running out of money before the end of your own life.
Wow.
So what can we set aside, or what is our philosophy about it? I want my clients to know what the options are. I don't want every single client to buy the same product. Some clients will say, well, is there an insurance policy I could buy for long-term care? Yeah, there is. But let's talk about whether you need it or not.
Yeah.
If you've got $20 million in your portfolio, you probably don't need it because you could weather that storm.
That's right.
If you've got $500,000 in your portfolio,
Different story.
you probably want to buy a long-term care policy, and there are different kinds.
Yeah.
And we can go through those choices.
That's really interesting, and so much of what you do comes down to knowing your client and their personal story, their personal strengths and weaknesses, where they are in their life, what else they have going on, in order for you to give them good advice about where to put their money and how to invest for the future. And as a lawyer who, you know, I like the fact that you use that language, protection, because a lot of it is sometimes you invest to protect yourself from bad things happening down the line.
Exactly.
People
right.
think in terms of investments is just about making money. Joe, today has been such a fascinating day. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And I want to actually ask you if you make a promise and agree to come back as a more regular guest.
I'd love to.
Because this is like providing people with information through a fire hose. There's so many things we could talk about. We could have an entire show on just Roth IRAs versus regular IRAs.
Sure.
So I would definitely love to have you back. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And again, if people want to find you and they want to call you after the show and ask questions and maybe schedule an appointment, where would they find you on the internet?
It's alphaomegawealth.com.
Okay.
And it's 702-430-4400.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Great to see you.
All right, folks, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Paul Padda Podcast. Until next time, be safe, be healthy, and be happy.
It's not about